everyone. My name is Jeff, and I'm an alcoholic. I need to set this down here real fast. Okay, so weird. Like I've performed in theater in front of people. I've sung in front of people, like hundreds of people, played piano, and yet I was not nervous. But speaking in front of a small group, I just get nervous. But it's good because it will help build me up. As I said, my name is Jeff, and I'm an alcoholic. And I had a hard time accepting at first that I was an alcoholic. When I first came in here, I told myself, I'm not an alcoholic. I definitely don't belong here. I've never gotten a DUI or ended up homeless or did this or did that, until I kept coming back to meetings and hearing people's stories and relating those stories to my life to realize that I am an alcoholic and I have a disease, and this is why I'm here. So here's my story. My name is Jeff. Again, I am an alcoholic, and I was born in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. On a military base. My dad was in the Army, and we lived on the Army base for a couple years. Obviously, I don't remember because I was a little kid, a baby. But we lived on that base, and Fort Campbell was right on the border of Kentucky. And my parents bought a house, their first home, in 2000, or sorry, not 2000. So they bought their house right in Clarksville. That's what I meant to say, right on the border of Tennessee. It was their first home. My parents got married in 1981. I was born in 1983. They are still married to this day, so about to celebrate 40 years. So we moved into that first house. My parents are both come from an alcoholic family. My father is an alcoholic and still is pretty much a heavier drinker to this day. As well with my mother, who, when met my father, was not really an alcoholic, but her progression is definitely, she's progressing, and it's being noticeable now to this day. That is more relied on. She's relying on it more. When we lived in Tennessee, actually, I was little. I have a sister as well. She's a year and a half younger than me. And when we lived in Tennessee, my father was in and out of the Army. He fought over in Iraq and came back. So my mother was very much the caretaker for us. And I respect my mother a lot, even still to this day. She's my mom. I'm a mama's boy. I always will be. She's my mom. But I never really noticed my dad's drinking as a kid a lot. Not really how heavy it was, but I just never paid attention. I was a kid. I did my own thing, mind my own business, played out in the yard, played out in the mud, did what kids do when we were little, played until the street lights came on. And that's what me and my sister both did. When I lived in Tennessee there, one thing I did have is when I was in school, I do have a disability in school, and I was part of the learning disability programs in school from kindergarten until I graduated high school. It's something that I'm not ashamed of. I'm actually proud of it because it's something that I could do to help with other students who have learning disabilities. And so it doesn't bother me, to have that learning disability. So I'm a proud member of the short bus, so it doesn't bother me. And I say that with all joke, of course. But one thing that that really did happen, well, it obviously did because I'm telling you my story. One thing that did happen when I was in Tennessee is my dad had a good friend of his at the time. His name was Al. He was an Army guy, and they hung out a lot together. Well, Al was always over the house. He would stay the night sometimes. Well, I was about 7 years old, and that was my first time being sexually molested by a grown man. This wasn't just a one occurrence. This happened over the next 5 years of him visiting. So it was a hard thing for me to do, and I think because of that because of that happening, that I remember the first time after what happened happened. He's like, this is just between us. Your parents cannot know about this. So that kept me, I felt, I retracted myself. I isolated myself of who I talked to, what I would talk about. I mean, I'm just a little kid, so I was naive about it. So I was scared to tell my parents because I was afraid that he would do something to my family. So I held that secret for a long time until I was 12, and I'll get into that in just a second here. So we did move from Tennessee. We moved around quite a bit. We moved to Germany, we moved to Maryland, and we settled up in Cleveland, Ohio, and that's where I lived most of my life, up in Cleveland, until I moved down here in 2014. In Cleveland, actually, is when I noticed a little bit of my dad's drinking getting worse. We moved into this one house in Cleveland that was used to be my dad's sister's property. They rented it out as it was a duplex, and I remember waking up one morning and my dad was asleep on the lawn, and I'm like, oh, what's wrong with Daddy? And Mom's like, oh, well, he's just tired and he just fell asleep outside and he just wanted to get some fresh air. And I have no idea, so I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. I believed it, So, and one thing in our households too is that, besides with my father drinking and my mom trying to be the glue to hold us all together, we always had people coming in and living with us. So, like in Tennessee, my mom's brother, who's gay as well, he lived with us for a while, and my uncle Kevin is like a brother to me. We nowadays kind of drifted our ways to a certain degree, but he is like a brother. And then when we moved to Cleveland, my mom's dad, once my mom's mother had passed away, moved in with us, who was also an alcoholic. So she was trying to control his drinking to a certain degree. And then eventually my grandfather moved back to his house in North Carolina. So my dad he was out of the military when we were up in Cleveland, and so I did change schools quite a bit, actually, up in Cleveland. We moved to a couple of different places, and we finally settled in this one little town off of Cleveland called Brooklyn, which the house that we moved into was actually my dad's mother's house. So God knows we're moving into family members' houses all the time, it seems. But it was a nice little house. So in that house there, my grandfather had moved back in with us because he needed the care. So he lived with us for a long time, and he lived there until he passed away there. As well, within that house, we had my cousins had moved in because they came from their mother was a heroin addict, and they didn't have a father, so they lived with us. There was two out of the 8 cousins lived with us for a while. So it was a little bit hectic all the time in the house. There was always something going on. It was always busy. But with the changing of the schools, I was bullied a little bit in school, not a huge amount. My sister was very protective of me, so she would stick up for me, but she would, definitely look out after me. But I remember how I was like, I've got to, stop being bullied and start making myself to someone. So I would make sure, I would get involved, and this is in middle school, by the way. I would get involved, with band. I would get involved with theater. I would get involved with the student council in school. So I started making myself known to where I was right in that group that was not popular, but not like the loners. I was right in that middle, so I made friends with everyone. Now I'm not saying I went to people's houses all the time, but it's just when we hung out, we always had a good time when we were at school or doing whatever. But I want to jump kind of back to the Al part right there. So about age 12, after the incidences of what happened with Al, of multiple occurrences, he was retired. He left the Army and he became a semi-truck driver. So I was out on trips I would go to trips with him, and my parents, thinking they're friends, our child is safe. Well, unfortunately, there was things that had happened to where, things happened. Well, my best friend Jacob at the time, who was gay, I came out, by the way, in middle school, about 12 years old is when I came out with my sexuality, that I was a gay guy. Because I was gay. I didn't say about that, But I told my uncle in a letter that I wrote him saying that I was sexually molested, but I was also gay too at the same time. And he invited me over that night. He invited me over that night with his partner and said, "You need to tell your parents. You got to tell your parents about this." And the reason why I bring up again the Al situation is because it was a traumatic thing for me in my life, because I didn't know what to tell people. You know, I was scared. I was really scared. I isolated myself a lot. So I told my parents, I was about to go to bed one night, and I asked my parents, like, "Mom, Dad, can you come into my room? I want to talk to you." So I told them about Al, and I told him too that I was gay at the same time. And my dad thought I was confused, you know, and my mom, I don't want to say my mom was upset, but because she has a gay brother, so, you know, she was very accepting of it. And my dad, you know, they're both, my parents today is very accepting. Like, they're at my husband's wedding, you know, they don't care if I give them a kiss in front of them or whatever, you know, they're very accepting of it. But my dad thought I was confused at first. He thought that because of my, the sexual trauma that happened to me was a result of my sexuality. And realistically, that was me as a child getting abused. My sexuality, I was born who I am. This is what I am. I like men or guys, you know, or boys at the time, or whatever you want to call it. So, but I told my parents that, and so they you know, they're fine with it now. But that was a big thing to get off my chest. And so when I got that all off my chest, you know, I did feel a lot better about about myself and who I am, and then talking, you know, just my communication with my parents was a little bit better. I did fantasize about being that popular gay guy. Like, I want to be, you know, on Outlines magazines or whatever, you know, like that popular gay guy, like model or whatever, you know. And I wanted to be that person. So, around age 15, 16, I got my first job. And I remember my first job, my cousin Carrie, who lived across the street, she worked there, she got me the job there. And so I would drive her to work, and she would smoke a cigarette, and I was like, "Oh, that seems interesting, I want to try that." So I tried it, and literally it tasted like shit. Like, I hated the taste of it. I could not stand it. And then not long after that, I tried a beer for the first time. And I'm like, "This is disgusting." I'm like, who can drink this? Well, not too much longer, I was drinking and smoking. And I, you know, started smoking at the age of 16. The group of friends that I hung around with, there was a girl, her name was Jamie, and she always hosted the fun parties whenever her mom would be out of town. So she had access to Zimas, wine coolers, Mike's Hard Lemonade, that sugary stuff that I don't think anybody really drinks anymore. But that was our go-to to getting to start drinking. So it was sugar water, pretty much. It wasn't hard liquor straight up. So it was, yeah, like just like a kid, you give a lollipop sugar, they like it. That was you know, happened there. However, you know, it didn't really. I didn't start going, like, drinking heavily or anything like that. It was fun. Let's go to Jamie's house for the Friday night after the football games and just have a good time, you know. And that's what we did. I sold my mom cigarettes, and I would smoke in my bedroom. I'd open up the window, and I would smoke out the side of the window. And obviously, I mean, they knew that I was smoking, because I'm sure they smelled it out in the hallway, you know, with the cigarette smoke. So, what happened, we moved eventually from Brooklyn, and what happened is my dad was into an accident. He was a postal carrier at the time and had his legs crushed between a concrete breaker and his mail truck. He almost had his legs amputated, but they were fortunate enough to fix the main artery in one of his legs to be able to save his leg. So he's fortunate to be able to walk today, so I'm very thankful that he is. We moved from Brooklyn to a town called Ashland, which is about 30 minutes south of Cleveland there, when I was in 11th grade. And we moved out into the sticks. So I'm moving from almost the city, not like New York or, you know, Dallas here, but like the city of Cleveland to the sticks, and getting used to that type of school. My 11th grade year was a really tough year on me because I was harassed for my sexuality. I was picked on a lot, and my sister took a lot of the brunt too for it. But however, my sister, I swear to God, she's a tough cookie. She hung out with the people, and she was a badass. My sister herself really kind of started getting into a little bit of trouble as well. I was the good child. I played the good child. I tried. My parents always thought I was the good child. But I did have that rebel side of me. So Jessica was able to take a lot of that from me, making me feel like, okay, I've got this, I'm good, I'm in the clear. So we had moved down to that little town called Ashland. My parents had got a settlement for my dad's injury, and we moved down there. So like I said, the 11th grade year was really tough for me, but coming around my senior year, I was actually 18 when I went to my senior year because I got held back in first grade. I was like, again, I'm gonna build myself back up here. So I got really involved into the band, highly involved in the theater there, and just made myself, known. And that really helped me out my last year. During my year of high school, my last year of high school, I worked at Wendy's, a Wendy's pilot gas station, overnight shift during the summertime once I graduated. And that was quite interesting. I got hit on by truckers all the time, quite a bit. And my dad was the maintenance guy next door at the pilot side. Let me get my notes here real quick. When I lived there in Ashland, I experienced marijuana for the first time, and that was me and my sister smoking a joint in the back of our property. We had 12 acres, by the way. We smoked a joint in the back of our property, and I really liked the feeling of it. So we did drink actually there at that property too. My parents are really easygoing, so they would let us, have a little bit of drinks here and all that stuff every now and then too. But and my mom would let me smoke her cigarettes. She eventually found out that I was smoking her cigarettes. But so I was smoking weed, and then I was like, this is really good. Like, where do you get your marijuana from? I was telling my sister. Well, come to find out, it was just a knock on the door right across the hallway. It was Dad, who was our drug dealer. So it worked out really, really well. And during that time, my dad's, he was not working. His drinking and marijuana use did get really bad at that property there. To this day, they have lost all that money that they accumulated. They've gone through 3 houses, and they are now building themselves back up. But my mother, I swear to God, she's a trooper, and she keeps that glue together and keeps that relationship going. So I'm proud of them for 40 years. So I graduated high school and moved to Columbus. I was about 19 years old. When I was down there, I went with a girl her name was Misty. She moved down there prior to me. We met at Wendy's, and she got me a job at Wendy's down there. When I can't believe I'm saying I worked at Wendy's. Which I'm telling you right now, which by the way, when I worked at the pilot gas station and Wendy's there, and my dad worked on the side, we would go out during my lunch break and smoke a joint in the back. And I swear to God, those chicken nuggets tasted so damn good in the morning time. No joke. Our inventory was probably so jacked up because of me. But anyway, so I moved down with Misty. I moved down there, and I lived down there for a year. I would go over to her house every now and then. I didn't really drink down in Columbus, but I would smoke some weed with her and all that stuff down there. But I missed my friends up in Cleveland. So I moved back to Cleveland. And when I moved back to Cleveland, that's when the shit hit the fan for me. That's when it really took off for me, because I got a full-time job at a bakery my uncle got me at, but also too, I started working 1 day a week at a bar. So I was turning about 20 years old, actually, when I started working at the bar and in the bakery. And we couldn't really drink at the bar because obviously my age, but the people who were older than 21 could. Now, John, who was the bar owner, bless his heart, he's looking down now at us. Great guy. He was like a father to me. He really looked after you. Every now and then he would let us drink, and I remember a couple times after the bar closed, we'd go to this place right across the street called Diana's. We called it Dirty D's, and there was this one. I remember this one server. We called her Dickhead because she had this one bun, like it was like just right up on her head. And we always said that she was covering up a dick. But anyway, it was good, greasy food. But we went, after we left back there, we went back to the bar and we would drink until about 4 o'clock in the morning. And John would let us every now and then. Well, when I turned 21 and I was able to drink on the job, that's when it was like, all right, I'm able to now. And John didn't care that we did that. He didn't care that we drank. My first real go-to alcohol was Stoli Vanilla and Diet Coke. I know, right? So, and I remember I would do that every now and then, but I remember the first time I got sick from it, I'm like, that's it. I can't stand the smell of Stoli Vanilla anymore. I'm like, I can't take it. I just can't take the smell of it. And eventually I worked at I got to be able to work at that bar full time, 5 days a week, to where John was able to provide health insurance for us and medical benefits on the payroll there. And I left the bakery job that I worked at. Oh, sorry, my phone makes weird noises. Okay, sorry. So I worked full time there at that job, and like I said, I drank all the time. From Sundays was my long shift, from 4 p.m. to 2:30 in the morning, and I would start when I got there. And I now realized that when I was saying at the first of my talk here that I did not think I was an alcoholic, that my disease was really starting at that point right there. You know, it of course started a little bit, you know, when I would drink at Jamie's house and all stuff, but it really started when I started working at that bar and drinking during my shifts. Where was I at here? I remember when I was talking about earlier on about I fantasized about being that popular gay. Well, now that I have that alcohol in me and I'm behind the bar and I'm serving your drinks, I'm that gay guy. You know, I'm the attention that that's the attention that I was wanting and thriving for, and I enjoyed it. I met so many great people, so many great drunks, and I'm sure other great alcoholics I've met there. Also, too, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for a while. I don't know if I could do it anymore because I have a hard time staying up past 9 o'clock now. I do, because I'm up by 3:30, 3:45. But also, too, I met my husband there. And I don't mean to say like my husband alcoholic, but I met my husband there. And I met him on a Tuesday night, and within 24 hours, I asked him to be my boyfriend. And, you know, 16 years later, here we are. And I love it. Where was I going here? So when I met my husband, you know, my husband would come up and visit me at nights when he was off, like the next several days from work. So he'd come up and we would drink with the bartenders on slow nights and all stuff. And we'd also go out with our friends and all. And, you know, I mean, I was having a good time and all stuff with all that. We had great pool parties. We'd go to our friend's house and have a good time with our friend Kim, who had a high-rise on the lake there in Cleveland. It was a lot of fun. So, where was it? We went to, like I said, parties, golfing, trips, cruises, all kinds of different things. We were just drinking. But I got a job at a furniture company called Our House Furniture at the time in 2019. I was recruited from the vice president, and she got me a job there. I started off in sales and eventually came into visual merchandising. And I opened up 46 or 42 stores out of the 78 stores they had at the time when I left. And so during that, my trips and all stuff, the visuals for furniture companies are party people, just so you know. I swear to God, like after work, it was straight to the restaurant, drink, and then we'd go back and sit around the fire pit around the hotel and just drink our asses off. And I don't know how we functioned the next day hanging up artwork and how they're not crooked or how stuff's not messed up in the stores, but somehow we made it through. And I stayed at that company until 2014. I'm sorry, that company had brought me down here to Dallas, Texas. My husband's from Dallas, Texas here, and so I've known Dallas, Texas. And when they said, "Hey, we're opening up a store in Texas," I'm like, I want it. It's perfect. You know, my husband's folks were getting a little bit older. It was great for us to be close and next to them. And I've always personally myself, I've loved Dallas since, you know, every time that we've come to visit his family during the holidays. And I'm glad we did. So I'm one of those people. I guess I want to say like I do want to retire here because I like it a lot. So in 2018 was we are, when we moved down here, we again we're drinking. Not we. I'm sorry. I was drinking pretty heavy. So I just want to say I was drinking pretty heavy. So we, as a group, as a couple, decided in 2018 that let's sober up, let's stop. So we stopped drinking altogether, and we went for about 8-10 months, I believe, or so, without drinking. Both were still smokers, and it felt good, but I wasn't guided on how to stop drinking. We went to my uncle's wedding, and that's when we just gave in. Or I gave in. I'm like, hey, let's have a martini, just one. It's fine. It'll be fine. We're really one martini led into two, then three, and then I had a hangover the next day. And I was like, okay, well, we can monitor our drinks now. Since we've started drinking, we can just monitor our drinks. We'll buy the 750, and that should last us through the weekend. Then it led up to the liter, and then the 1.5. And the next thing we're buying a six case of the 1.5 liters. So the first round didn't work for me. And then on August 6th was my sobriety date, my current sobriety date. And when I came in, again, like I said, I did not feel like I was an alcoholic. I did not feel that I had belonged here, because I didn't do some of these certain things. I came in because I knew my drinking was getting worse, and also too, I came in for myself and I came in for others as well. But I knew my drinking was getting worse. But again, I still didn't feel like I belonged here, and I had a hard time relating to people. But what kept me to relate, anyway, what I'm trying to say, how I relate is coming back and hearing people's stories. That's how I started to relate to myself and putting myself in other people's shoes and understanding. So some of the things here's a couple things that really kind of some of the steps, not steps, these steps here, but like some of the things that really helped me is that, I had a hard time believing, and I had to keep coming back to listen to people. The God thing was a very difficult thing for me to take in, and a lot of people are in the same boat as I am at first, because for me that God was a figure itself, that was a person or individual, that figure itself, and I could not see that figure. I never had that figure, and my thing is that if there's a God, then why is he having people starve, or he's making these poor little animals, in pain, or they're cold during the winter, all these bad things happening, and that was hard for me to do a concept of God. Plus, there's so many different religions, like which one do I even choose? That was so confusing for me. Well, I gotten a sponsor, and my sponsor told me, and I love it, and it's right in the steps there, as we understood him, and that had to open my eye. That took me a second to open my eyes. So I had to find the God that kind of I make up, that works for me. And I had gone running one morning, and I remember it was in the morning time, and the sun was just rising over SMU, and it was that pretty color of pink. And I'm like, this is my God. That's right now. That's showing me. It was the energy that was around me, the nature that was around me. That was my God. So that God is my figure, my type of figure for me. Resentments was another thing that was like, how am I going to do this? So my resentment list was kind of a short, quick one, and it's something that I would like to do thoroughly again. And once that's completed, I'd like to do it again and again and again to really kind of complete it. When I was working on them, I did have a lot of dad issues with my dad. My dad and I, to a certain degree this day, we kind of still butt heads, but we've gotten a lot better because of the program. But I did have some dad issues of like the one time to where he did beat me and just his selfishness, and then come to realize like, oh, I'm being selfish too. But my favorite steps was 6 and 7, because this is where I really found, for me, myself in the program. My character defects, like that was the biggest thing for me to, oh my gosh, like the biggest thing for me to find. I liked the fact that it took me a second, but I loved the fact that I had to break down my ego, because I thought I was better than you. I'm sorry. I really thought I was better than you. I thought that it was my way, was the right way or not. And that proved a lot with my former jobs. It proved a lot with friends, that, I'm doing this right. But however, I was wrong at it. And like I said, I did judge a lot to where, if you, and I'm trying to sound like, what's the word I'm looking for, to like, I have nicer shoes, but it's not like, if you looked like not good looking, or like you weren't dressed well, I'm like, I didn't really want anything to do with you, because I just didn't trust you at all. Another thing for me was trust, is learning to trust people. I had a very, very difficult time trusting anybody. And again, it was how you looked. If I was very skeptical of you or sketchy of you, I definitely did not trust you. And again, I was judging you. So working the steps 6 and 7 and losing those character defects and handing that over to my God and saying, you handle this for me? Can you hold on to this and just guide me with that? Basically letting go of control, like letting go of control of it. That just helped me out so much. And I mean, it's hard for me to describe, but it just happens. It really just happens. Reading the book Drop the Rock was the best thing for me. If you ever get a chance to read it, I highly recommend it. There is a little thing in here a little small quote, just a small little thing that says, we surrender as much as ourselves to as much as of God as we understand. In other words, our spiritual progress is based on the direct proportion and to drop the rock. Many are very fortunate that all of our defects aren't revealed to us all at once. Recovery works by giving us daily insight into what we do to remove what blocks us. And one thing that I really loved about how working steps 6 and 7 and read and drop the rock is that all these defects of character are not going to go away all at once. You're just not going to say, here you go. Granted, yes, I'm like, here, God, can you take care of these for me? But I had to slowly work through them at a little bit, a day-by-day basis, which was rewarding for me to do so. Excuse me, by the way. It just, this really, really, helped kind of guide me and help me out. What was it really? Sorry, I'm reading my little notes here. One thing that I really, really liked a lot too is that what was helping me out is to really just slow down. Slowing down made it much more easier for me to think before I took the next step, the next action. I remember my boss one time at our house, because I swear to God, I was like a freaking maniac. Like I was the rabbit. Like I was from here to there to there to there. I was nonstop all the time. And I did that to myself. I wanted to prove like, okay, I could do this. I can be this person. Well, she told me, she's like, you got to slow down. And I always remember that when in the group here, they say slow down, and it works if you just slow down and take your time. Another thing is that is the 12th step is passing on and talking about the program, and also too, like how this program is an inspirational and an example program. Since I've been in the program and learned, I've learned the steps and starting to learn about myself, the happiness is coming through. It's showing. My parents are noticing it. My sister's noticing it. some of the coworkers that know about who I'm in the program, really just two, my boss and one of the store managers, they've realized and seen how I've changed in the program and how I'm a lot more happier. The programs also too has, I believe, benefited since I've slowed down and made better decisions. I've gotten promoted at work. Good things do come and will follow just by following the program here, because it does work. A couple quotes that I've heard over the year and so many months that I've been here is keep coming back, because I really do believe, like when I said before, I did not feel like I belonged here until I kept coming back and hearing people's stories and relating their stories to my life, and that realized that I do belong here. I do have a disease. I am here for a reason. We're all here for the same reason. Cleaning up my side of the street, that's one of my favorite things that I've heard. And it really has, working steps 6 and 7 and fixing the character defects of cleaning up, I think, my side of the street, cleaning up myself, finding out who I am, and getting rid of those defects of judging or high ego or all those types of things. Getting rid of that has really kind of helped me out. Start off small when cleaning up. Think up your side of the street. Start off small. Get rid of the pieces of trash, and then eventually come in and start sweeping it. So, I would say, like a small thing would be I guess judgment. That's a huge thing. So or a small thing. So just get rid of that. Just start in small baby steps. That helps. Jealousy is anger turned inwards. Like, that is one of my favorites too that I've heard, because I would be jealous of people's long-term sobriety. It's like, oh, I really want that. I want to know what they have. I want to be able to have a really good share that someone has had a sobriety of 20 plus years, of someone who shares something and it just sounds like melted butter on a piece of bread. It goes on so nicely, if that makes any weird sense. That's probably some Southern in me there. But I would be jealous of some guy at the gym who is built like a brick house, but here's the thing that I've learned about that is that they've worked for that. So the person who's had their 30 years of sobriety here, or 15 years of sobriety, or 3 days of sobriety, has worked to that sobriety for that day. So they're working. It's just like the guy at the gym who has massive arms and a six-pack. He's worked for that for a long time. So there's no reason for me to be jealous or angry about it. I have to do something about it if I want that. Remain within inside the herd. I love that. There was a point to where I was probably about 6 to 8 months, in my sobriety, and I don't mean to say that like I've been here for 20 years. 'Cause I've only been here for a year and 8 months. So, but remain within inside the herd. There was one point to where I was on that pink cloud, to where I was like, okay, I kind of got this. I don't need to attend more than 3 meetings a week or 4 meetings a week. I can go down to 1. And during that process, I noticed that I was starting to drift. I'm not saying drift as in I went to go buy a bottle of liquor, but I was starting to lose my pride in the program. So I had made my decision, like, okay, I've got to come back. I need to come Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at least. Those 3 days a week. And that had pulled me back into the herd. So I'm back right into the center of that, as well with being involved with other parts of the AA as well. So being involved, getting to know people, talk to people, coming in to set up chairs or make coffee, whichever. So being involved was a huge thing, which I never wanted to do it really at first, but I had forced myself to, and doing so, I'm glad I did. The 1 day at a time that I was just talking about, just this program really is truly a 1 day at a time. Oh my gosh, I got to hurry up. And then facing your fears. I love the fact of the facing the fears part, because I wanted to all the time like hold my lies, and like I wanted to lie to you and try to get away with it. But you know what? If I did something wrong, then I'm just gonna straight up tell you that I did something wrong, or I messed up with something. I messed up an order at work. I messed up. I'm sorry. It's not the end of the world. I'm not going to die over it. It's mistakes happen. So, how I feel now, basically I'm 632 days sober today. 54 million seconds, if you want to count it at that. I Googled that, by the way, just so you know. I Googled that because I wanted to say how long it was. But I do feel amazing. I finally figured out I'm finding myself to this day. I've used this program to also help with other things for myself in life. I've used it to help quit smoking. Like my last cigarette was August 31st of last year. I had my wisdom teeth pulled the next day, so I had to quit smoking, but I used the program to keep me from not smoking after I got my teeth pulled. I'm using the program as well to help with a fitness journey for myself, and just the motivation. There's a lot more to the program. It's here to help you stop drinking, but it's here to help with other parts in your life too, so use it, and it really, really works. Apply the steps to those things, and it works. Again, slow down. Take your time. It works. Find time for meditation. I find myself time for meditation as much as I can. I've recently just, when I get to work, I have satellite radio in my car, so it's always on spa, like all the time, even at the house. 90% of the time, it's spa music because I like it, Chris likes it, our 4 cats love it. So it's just very relaxing. But find that time for yourself, because just that moment of meditation, quietness, it works. Pick yourself up a hobby. I enjoy, like for myself, I enjoy going to the gym. I really enjoy, like a lot. I also too, I like cooking, piano. You know, those are my forms of meditation, but something to keep me busy. And again, just being honest. Don't lie about it, or don't lie about anything. Just tell the truth. Don't hold it in, because you don't want that resentment eventually in the future that you're going to have to make up, and tell someone about. Another one that I had is I found confidence in myself about my reading, because I did have a learning disability, and my learning disability is one of the readings, and so I was really nervous. I remember the first time, real quick, and I'm sorry, I know I'm short on time. The first time that we had our outdoor meeting, actually, because I started off on Zoom during the pandemic, which was interesting because I didn't understand what fellowship was and all stuff, but we met at Union for the first time. I was with Lambda at the time, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll read how it works. For the first time meeting all these people, and I literally got 2 sentences and I froze and I passed it over to my husband. I'm like, here, read this. I can't do it, But now I've attended the book readings here, and I do enjoy reading. If I stutter, or whatever, it doesn't bother me, I don't mind if people say like, hey, this is the correct word or whatever, I feel comfortable in this family, I don't mind that a bit. So I found confidence in myself because I have others helping me out too in this program. That's kind of what I got in there. So again, I can stand here in front of you now and say that I am an alcoholic. I'm proud, I guess, to be an alcoholic. Well, I'm proud to be an alcoholic because I've learned, I'm not gonna stand out with pom-poms and yell it, but I'm proud to be an alcoholic, and I'm proud to get up here and share my story for the first time and do of service. And thank you for letting me share my story, and I hope some of that made sense and you guys got something out of it, and that hour went by pretty quick. So thank you all so much.